Hello, everyone. My name is Nehal Desai. Um, I'm going to talk a little bit about a new uh, drug that was just recently approved by FDA called Decnupaz. Um, it's a pretty interesting drug. It helps to treat cancer cells, basically. So you'll see in the slides how the medication works. But before we get there, let's talk about the disease state by itself for now. So when we look at the picture here, you can see that's kind of like looks like a receptor, but it's actually the drug molecule itself that's going to be um, connected with this receptor that is on the cancer cell. You'll see how it targets and all in the future slides. So let's move to the next part here. So just give me 1 second. Okay, so what is it used for? The medication is typically used for blastic plasmacytoid dendritic cell neoplasm, BPDCN, and it's usually given intravenously, IV once every 3 weeks. Um, so these patients, you can see in the name blastic plasmacytoid dendritic cell neoplasm. It probably might seem like a lot, but I'm sure you've heard of like blastic, meaning like it's building new cells and kind of like, you know, there's more of it. And then plasmacytoid, if you break that word apart, it's actually referring to the plasma or like the blood cells. And the dendritic cell part is actually referring to the like immune system. I'm sure you've heard of that. So typically, um, this is used for um, targeting immature blood cell cancers. And so you'll see here how it actually develops. So there's normally you would have plasmacytoid dendritic cells, which are immune cells that detect viral infections, produce interferon alpha, um, and also help activate immune cells. These cell types of cells are found in bone marrow, the blood, the lymphoid tissue. Just as I mentioned earlier, it does damage, well, it does kind of help with protection and prevention of viral diseases and all. However, when it becomes immature, when it's immature in the process, um, and the DNA receives some mutation that leads to cancer cell, these damages to the instructions in the process via cancer causing mutation leads to that um, leads to blastic plasmacytoid dendritic cells. So typically we don't want that, so we're going to find a way to target those cells so that it can um, go in the normal direction as it should to become more immature or become more mature immune cells in the body. So in this case, this medication is used to treat that. The next slide will show an image, or I guess you could say a picture of like the steps in which um, the damages and mutations um, of DNA within the immature cells lead to the cancer cells. These are cells that go from immature process to the maturity, and during that process, when they get to the maturity level, there are things that happen that lead to cancer cells. So you could see here in this next slide, You have here in the first part up here in the top left where it says normal development of PDC. Um, there's a hematopoietic stem cell. It becomes an early precursor, then it's a immature cell, and then finally a mature cell develops. That's in the normal process. But then when it acquires oncogenic mutations, the DNA starts to receive some instructions where it um, blocks the normal maturation, increase proliferation, resist apoptosis, and genomic instability occurs. So that's how this leads to a malignant blast, and that causes um, the cells to become more cancer-like. So then you see it rapidly proliferates in the bone marrow, spills into blood, and infiltrate organs. So it can affect other body parts too. And, so this is typically how it can um, become an issue later on if not targeted early in the um, process. So the fix is usually the medication itself, then the Decnupaz. You can see here the medication connects itself to the CD123 receptor, goes inside, that brings that medication inside the cell. I'll kind of draw it out so you guys can see it um, live here. So let's say, and actually it was kind of purple. Um, let's say we had that receptor, okay, that we saw earlier. It's not a receptor, it's actually the drug molecule. And on the sides here, we have these little things, and what you call these little things, these circle things that's on the side, they are actually payload molecules that are connected to the actual antibody. This antibody is going to bind itself to a receptor, which is this right here. Bind to the CD123 receptor. Once it goes inside, and I'm going to draw here the nucleus here too, so you guys can see. Then you got this DNA here, okay? And then once it goes inside, well, obviously it's going to get endocytosed inside the cell. So you have like a little bit of endocytosis, and while it's inside, it's going to release its payload. This payload is going to go right inside and attack the DNA of the cancer cell. And that's how it will cause eventually apoptosis. So I'll show you in the next slide here the actual process in which this medication actually will fix the problem. So you can see here the mechanism. The Decnupaz is an antibody drug conjugate ADC designed to target CD123 on cancer cell and deliver potent DNA damaging payload. So it's kind of broken up. So for your reference here, you can see you just have to think of it like a guided missile finds and destroys the CD123 positive cancer cells. Now, almost every all the normal cells will have CD123 on them. However, when there's overexpression of them, those will usually be like the cancer cells as shown here. Whenever like the um, this medication, so when this medication binds to the receptor on the surface of the BPCDN cells, it's going to internalize itself inside the cell, which you can see here. If I just, if I could draw it, I would. Let me see if I can draw it. So you can see how it's kind of going inside here. And then, so it's going to go through endocytosis. Once inside, the linker is cleaved and then releases this payload here, which is like toxic bombs that go into the nucleus and then eventually damages the DNA and causes single strand DNA breaks. So like you can see here, some of the single strand DNA breaks and prevents DNA replication and transcription. Then finally apoptosis or cell death occurs. You can see all here how that occurs there. And so that's the overall picture of how this medication works. If anybody has any questions about it, please feel free to let us know. You can comment us on our YouTube page, or you can, use our Facebook page and message us if you have any other questions. Thank you for watching. I hope you all have a great day.